Beloved, your soulmate has written something for you that they have not yet had the courage to place in your hands. Not a short message. Not a casual, "I miss you." A real letter. The kind of letter someone writes when ordinary conversation no longer feels capable of carrying everything that has been trapped inside their heart. Your soulmate may have written it late at night. Perhaps everyone around them was asleep. Their phone was turned face down. The room was quiet. And for once, there was nowhere left to run from what they had been feeling. They opened a blank page. For several minutes, they simply stared. They knew who the letter was for before they wrote the first word. You. The difficult part was deciding how to begin. Dear, too formal. I know it's been a long time, too distant. I'm sorry, true, but somehow not enough. Your soulmate deleted the opening several times. Then finally, they wrote something simpler. If you ever read this, there is something I need you to know. And after that sentence, everything they had been holding back started coming out. The first truth they wrote was not about love. It was about regret. Your soulmate wrote, "I know there were times when you needed an answer from me and I gave you silence instead." They stopped after writing it. Because seeing those words on the page made the past feel different. Silence had always seemed harmless while they were inside it. They told themselves they needed time. They were confused. They did not want to make things worse. But now they could imagine what silence felt like from your side. You were not receiving their private fear. You were receiving absence. You could not see them staring at your messages. You could not hear the conversations they had with themselves. You did not know they were thinking about you while refusing to reach out. All you knew was that someone who had once made you feel important suddenly became difficult to understand. Your soulmate wrote, "I thought you would somehow know that my silence did not mean I stopped caring." Then they stared at the sentence. And perhaps they realized how unfair that expectation had been. How were you supposed to know? Love that remains completely hidden can begin to look exactly like indifference. Your soulmate finally understands that. The letter continues, "You kept asking me what was wrong, and I kept saying nothing. The truth is, something was wrong. I was afraid." Afraid. That word appears several times in the letter. Your soulmate may have spent months calling what happened bad timing, confusion, or complicated circumstances. But when they were finally alone with a blank page and no one to impress, the explanation became much simpler. Fear. They were afraid of how much you mattered. Maybe that sounds strange. People often imagine that deep feelings naturally make someone move closer. Sometimes they do. But for someone who learned to protect themselves through distance, deep feelings can trigger exactly the opposite response. Your soulmate wrote, "The closer I felt to you, the more I started thinking about what it would feel like to lose you." That was the beginning of the pattern. Before anything had actually gone wrong, your soulmate began preparing for the possibility that it might. Perhaps someone had hurt them before. Maybe they trusted deeply and were betrayed. Perhaps they grew up learning that people can become distant without warning. Whatever the origin, your connection activated an old belief inside them. Do not become too dependent. Do not reveal too much. Do not give anyone enough power to completely break your heart. Then you arrived and made those rules difficult to follow. You noticed them. Really noticed them. You remembered details. You asked questions other people rarely asked. You could tell when their energy changed. Sometimes you understood something was wrong before your soulmate admitted it to themselves. At first, they loved this. Then they became scared of it. They wrote, "You saw parts of me that I didn't know how to explain. And instead of letting you see more, I started hiding." Your soulmate remembers the first time they deliberately became distant. Perhaps there was no argument. Everything had actually been going well. Maybe too well. You had a conversation that felt unusually intimate. Perhaps you said something vulnerable. Maybe your soulmate almost admitted how strongly they felt. Then the conversation ended. And instead of feeling happy, your person felt exposed. The next day, their responses changed. You noticed immediately. Of course you did. You asked, "Is everything okay?" They said, "Yes." It was not. You asked again later. Your soulmate became irritated. Not because your question was unreasonable. Because your question was moving closer to something they were trying to avoid. You. Them. Feelings. Possibility. The letter says, "I made you feel like you were asking too much when you were really asking me to stop making you guess." That sentence may have taken your soulmate a long time to write. Because it requires accountability. You were not asking for a perfect relationship. You wanted clarity. You wanted someone capable of saying, "I care. I'm overwhelmed. I need a little space. I'm scared." Those sentences could have saved you from inventing explanations. Instead, your soulmate left gaps. And your heart filled those gaps with fear. Did they lose interest? Did you do something wrong? Was there someone else? Were you becoming too needy? Your soulmate may never have intended for you to question yourself this way. But intention does not remove impact. The letter acknowledges that. "I'm sorry I made you question your value because I was too afraid to explain my own emotions." Perhaps this is the first apology inside the letter that made your soulmate stop writing. They looked away. Maybe tears came. Because your worth was never the problem. They know that now. Maybe part of them knew it then too. You were not difficult to love. Your soulmate was struggling to receive love without becoming frightened by what it required. There is a difference. The letter continues, "You probably thought I could move on easily. I wanted you to believe that. That confession may surprise you. Your soulmate did not always want you to know how much they were affected. Pride played a role. After distance began, perhaps your person deliberately appeared fine. They went out. Stayed busy. Maybe they posted something. Perhaps they allowed people to believe they had completely moved forward. Why? Because admitting they missed you felt like admitting the distance had failed. They had created space to protect themselves. Then discovered the space hurt. Your soulmate wrote, "There were nights when I opened our conversation and almost sent something." Maybe you already sensed this. Maybe not. There were times your name appeared on their screen because they searched for it. They scrolled through old messages. Perhaps they found a conversation from the beginning. A time when everything felt lighter. Maybe you were joking. Perhaps you were talking late at night. Your soulmate remembered the version of themselves that existed before fear took over. They missed that person too. They began typing. "Hey. Delete. I was thinking about you. Delete. Can we talk? Delete." Sometimes they wrote paragraphs. Then one thought stopped them. What if you did not answer? Your soulmate could survive missing you while imagining that you still cared. A rejection would remove imagination. So they chose uncertainty. Again. The letter admits, "I kept wanting proof that you still cared before I was willing to risk showing you that I still cared." That imbalance is now obvious to them. They wanted reassurance before vulnerability. But you had already been vulnerable. You had already tried. Maybe you sent the message first after the disagreement. Maybe you asked whether the two of you could speak. Perhaps you were the one trying to clarify what was happening. Your soulmate now realizes how much courage that required. They used to interpret your reaching as emotional dependence. Now they see it as something else. Bravery. You were willing to risk hearing an answer you did not want. Your soulmate was not. The letter says, "You were braver with your heart than I was." That may be one of the most honest lines. Then comes something deeper. Your soulmate begins writing about the moment you changed. They noticed. Perhaps before you realized they had. You stopped asking so many questions. At first, they thought this was good. Maybe things were finally becoming easier. Then your messages became shorter. You no longer tried to repair every silence. Perhaps you stopped reacting to the small things your soulmate did to see if you still cared. Your person felt uncomfortable. They may have tried giving you a little attention. Enough to reopen the connection. But this time, you did not return with the same intensity. Something was different. Your soulmate wrote, "I thought you were trying to punish me. Now I understand that you were tired." Tired. Not of loving. Of carrying uncertainty. The letter continues, "I didn't realize you could still love me and choose yourself." That realization changed them. Your soulmate had always assumed that if you truly cared, you would stay. No matter what. Perhaps they unconsciously believed enduring confusion was proof of loyalty. But eventually you learned something. Love without boundaries can become self-abandonment. You could care about your soulmate and still say, "This cannot continue in the same way." Your person did not understand at first. Maybe they were angry. Perhaps they told themselves you gave up. But now they see something else. You did not give up the first time things became difficult. You stayed through many difficult moments. You tried. You explained. You waited. At some point, leaving was not a lack of effort. It was recognition that effort had become one-sided. The letter says, "I understand now that you didn't leave because you stopped feeling something. You left because you could not keep being the only one making those feelings visible." Your soulmate may not know whether this was exactly your experience, but they suspect it. Perhaps someone close to you told them something recently. Maybe your name came up in conversation. Your soulmate learned you had defended them even after walking away. That information shook them. Someone may have told your person, "They never said you were a terrible person." Your soulmate asked, "What did they say?" The answer, "They said you were afraid." Your soulmate became silent. Because you knew. Even when you were hurting, you saw the fear underneath. But you did not allow that understanding to become an excuse forever. That is something your person respects now. The letter says, "You understood me better than I understood myself, and I made you pay for that understanding by expecting endless patience." They are sorry. Perhaps this is why the letter exists. Your soulmate cannot change what happened. They cannot travel backward and become emotionally ready on the exact day you needed them. But they can stop pretending nothing was lost. They can name it. They can tell you that the connection mattered. That you mattered. Then comes a line they may have rewritten several times. "I loved you." They stare. Past tense feels wrong. So perhaps they cross it out. And write, "I love you." That sentence frightens them more than everything before it. Because love is not abstract anymore once written clearly. Your soulmate can no longer hide behind, "I care." You're important. There's a connection. No. Love. They may not know what that means for the future. They simply know what is true inside them now. The letter continues, "I don't know if saying that today changes anything for you. This is important. Your soulmate knows late truth does not automatically create a second chance. Maybe your heart has moved. Perhaps someone else entered your life. Maybe you still care deeply but no longer trust them. Your soulmate cannot know. And finally, they are beginning to respect that uncertainty rather than trying to control it. They wrote, "I'm not telling you that I love you because I think you owe me love back." That is a healthier confession. Then, "I'm telling you because you deserve to know the truth before I was brave enough to give it." Perhaps this is the heart of the letter. The truth arrived late. But your soulmate no longer wants silence to become the final version of the story. They want you to know that what happened was not meaningless. You were not imagining the intensity. You were not foolish for sensing something beneath their behavior. Your soulmate did feel it. They simply handled it badly. Perhaps there were other complications too. Family expectations. Work. Distance. An unresolved relationship. Financial problems. Maybe your person felt their life was too unstable to offer you the kind of future they thought you deserved. The letter may mention these things. But something has changed in how your soulmate explains them. They no longer use circumstances as an excuse. They write, "There were real problems in my life, but I should have told you about them instead of making you think you were the problem." That distinction matters. Maybe your soulmate believed, if I tell them what's happening, they'll worry. Or, if I admit I can't offer more right now, they'll leave. So they hid. Again, they tried to protect the connection by withholding truth. And again, withholding truth damaged the connection more deeply. Your soulmate understands this pattern now. The letter says, "I kept trying to decide what was best for you without giving you enough information to decide for yourself." Perhaps they stepped back because they believed you deserved someone more available. Maybe they thought they were doing something noble. But if they never explained it, your experience was simply abandonment. Your soulmate recognizes that. You should have been allowed to choose. That sentence may become one of the central apologies. Then the letter takes a surprising turn. Your soulmate tells you about the day they realized you might actually be gone. Perhaps it happened recently. Maybe someone said you seemed happy. Perhaps they heard you had an opportunity in another place. Maybe they saw someone showing interest in you. Or perhaps they simply noticed your absence felt different. There had been no indirect sign from you. No checking. No reaching. No emotional reaction. Your soulmate suddenly thought, they might genuinely be finished. The thought made them physically uncomfortable. They imagined a future. Not tomorrow. Years. They imagined hearing your name through someone else. Perhaps discovering that you had built a beautiful life. A partner. A home. Your dreams becoming real. And your soulmate existing only as a person from the past who never said what they should have said. The letter says, "I realized I could survive losing you. What I didn't know if I could live with was knowing I never told you the truth." That is why they wrote. Not necessarily because they believe the letter will win you back. Because regret had become heavier than vulnerability. Your soulmate may have spent too long asking, "What if I speak and lose them?" Now they ask, "What if I never speak and lose the chance forever?" The second fear has become stronger. They continue, "If you have moved on, I will not ask you to destroy your peace for me." Perhaps those words are difficult for them. They secretly hope you have not. Of course. But a healthier kind of love begins to respect reality. If someone else is in your life, your soulmate does not have the right to arrive dramatically and demand that you choose them because they finally became brave. Timing has consequences. Your soulmate knows. Maybe the letter says, "I hate imagining someone else becoming important to you, but I know you were never supposed to stay unavailable while I decided whether I was ready." This is mature jealousy. Acknowledged. Not turned into control. Your soulmate may still feel pain imagining someone else receiving your affection. The morning messages. The small jokes. The conversations. But they cannot blame you. They were offered opportunities to participate. They were afraid. Now perhaps another person may benefit from the version of you who learned boundaries and peace through the experience. Your soulmate realizes that. It hurts. But perhaps pain is teaching them something. Do not take meaningful people for granted because you assume their love will wait forever. The letter then says something unexpected. I'm proud of you. Perhaps you never thought your soulmate noticed your growth. They did. Maybe from a distance. They saw you become more confident. Maybe you focused on work. You became quieter in a different way. Not sad quiet. Centered. Your soulmate noticed. There may have been something you achieved. Perhaps they desperately wanted to congratulate you. They did not. Pride stopped them. Or shame. They wondered whether contacting you only during a good moment would be unfair after remaining absent during difficult ones. So they stayed silent. But privately, they were proud. The letter says, "You became the version of yourself you were always trying to become, and I'm sorry I wasn't standing beside you while it happened." That line may be difficult to read. Because perhaps there was a time you imagined your soulmate celebrating those moments. You wanted them there. Eventually, you learned to celebrate without them. Your person knows that. They cannot reclaim those memories. They can only decide whether they become more present in whatever future remains. Then comes another hidden confession. Your soulmate has been afraid they are no longer good enough for you. Interesting, isn't it? There may have been a time when you felt you were not enough for them. Now perhaps the opposite exists. They see your growth and think, what would I even bring into their life now? They worry that you became emotionally stronger while they spent too long avoiding their own issues. The letter says, "Sometimes I didn't contact you because I thought you deserved better than the version of me I was." But then your soulmate adds something important. "I realize now that disappearing did not become better treatment simply because I believed you deserved better." Exactly. If they truly believed you deserved honesty, they should have given honesty. If they believed they needed to improve, they could have told you. Your soulmate now knows self-doubt can become another form of avoidance. They cannot keep saying, "I'm not good enough," as a reason not to grow. So the letter describes what they have been changing. Maybe they have begun communicating more honestly with people around them. Perhaps they stopped avoiding uncomfortable conversations. They may be setting boundaries. Taking responsibility. Learning to say, "I'm scared. I'm wrong. I need time. I'm sorry." Simple sentences. But perhaps these were difficult for them before. Your soulmate writes, "I don't want to tell you I've changed. I want to become someone whose behavior makes that obvious." This may be one of the strongest lines in the letter. Because words alone will not be enough. They know. Perhaps you once heard promises. Maybe your soulmate said, "I'll do better." Then eventually, the old pattern returned. This time, they know transformation must survive beyond an emotional confession. If they ever return, consistency is the proof. The letter says, if I ever get another opportunity to speak with you, I don't want to ask you to trust me immediately. Instead, I want to earn enough new experiences that trust has somewhere to grow. That is different. Perhaps they understand your heart may be cautious now. You may question a delayed reply. Maybe your nervous system remembers the old silence. Your soulmate should not criticize you for that. They created some of those associations. If they become impatient because you do not trust them instantly, then their growth is incomplete. The letter acknowledges this. I know you may be guarded because I taught you to protect yourself around me. That is a painful thing to admit. Then, if I am ever allowed close again, I want to become part of the reason you feel safe, not the reason you constantly prepare to be abandoned. Perhaps this is what your heart once wanted most. Not a dramatic promise. Safety. Your soulmate wants to offer that now. But they also write, I understand if I became ready after you became done. This sentence may be where the letter almost ends. Your soulmate had to confront the possibility that growth does not guarantee reunion. Sometimes lessons arrive after consequences. That does not make the growth meaningless. It simply means another person is not required to return because you finally learned. Your soulmate respects this, or is learning to. Perhaps you will never read the letter. Maybe they keep it hidden. That would be strangely consistent with the old pattern. Feel deeply. Say nothing. Your soulmate knows. Perhaps that realization is exactly what eventually makes them send it. What is the point of writing the truth if fear locks it away again? They may hold the envelope. Or stare at the message. Their finger hovering. The same crossroads as before. Hide. Or speak. But this time, something is different. The letter itself has shown them how tired they are of hiding. They have read their own confession. They can no longer pretend they do not know what they feel. Perhaps the final section begins, if this reaches you, your soulmate pauses. Then writes, I don't want anything from you that you are not freely willing to give. This matters. No guilt. No destiny used as pressure. No, I waited, so now you must choose me. Just honesty. They continue, if you don't want to answer, I will respect it. Perhaps that sentence hurts them to write. But if there is any part of you that wants one honest conversation, I am ready to have it. One conversation. Not, come back. Not, promise me forever. Talk. Perhaps that is all the situation needs first. Your soulmate wants to hear your story too. This is another thing that has changed. Before, they were consumed by what they felt. Their fear. Their confusion. Their reasons. Now they want to know, what did I do to your heart? Not to torture themselves. To understand. The letter says, if we ever talk again, I don't want to spend the entire conversation explaining myself. I want to hear you. That is significant. Maybe nobody truly listened to your side. Perhaps even your soulmate did not. When you tried, they became defensive. They heard accusation instead of pain. Now perhaps they are prepared to remain present. You might say, "You made me feel replaceable." Your soulmate may feel the instinct to answer, but you weren't. Instead, they need to say, "I understand why my behavior made you feel that way." Then perhaps, "I'm sorry." That is listening. You might say, "I stopped trusting your words because your actions kept changing." Your soulmate cannot demand, "But trust me now." They need to accept, "I understand." Then build differently. This is the kind of conversation they imagine. Maybe the letter is preparing them for it. They write, "I don't expect forgiveness to erase consequences." That is another mature truth. Perhaps you forgive them emotionally but still decide not to rebuild. Your soulmate must accept that. Perhaps you forgive and choose to explore slowly. Then both people need patience. Maybe your first conversation is beautiful. Do not immediately assume every problem is solved. Emotional relief can feel like transformation. Sometimes it is only relief. The real test comes later. The next disagreement. The next stressful week. The next moment your soulmate feels vulnerable. Do they communicate? The letter promises, "If I become afraid again, I want to tell you instead of disappearing." Perhaps this is the promise that matters most. Not, "I'll never be scared." Impossible. "I will handle fear differently." That is realistic. Maybe they write, "If I need space, I will tell you what that means." Perhaps, "I won't leave you wondering whether one difficult conversation ended everything." That is emotional safety. Your soulmate may finally know how much you needed it. The letter continues, "I want love to feel different with me if I ever receive another chance. Not constantly intense. Not filled with chasing. Different. Perhaps calmer." Your soulmate may have once mistaken emotional chaos for proof that the connection was powerful. Now they know a powerful connection can still become peaceful. You can love deeply and communicate clearly. You can miss someone without testing them. You can disagree without threatening departure. Maybe your soulmate never experienced this kind of love. That does not mean they cannot learn. But you do not have to become the laboratory where they repeatedly practice at your expense. They need to do work independently too. The letter recognizes this. "I know you cannot heal me." That line might surprise you. Because perhaps for a while, your soulmate treated your affection like emotional medicine. When they felt insecure, your reassurance helped. When they felt lonely, your presence soothed them. But when you needed emotional support, they sometimes struggled to return it. Now they understand the imbalance. They write, "I don't want to come back because I need someone to save me. I want to come back only if I can stand beside you." Partner. Not patient and healer. Two adults. Two lives. Two voices. That is the kind of beginning they now imagine. Then your soulmate writes about the future. Carefully. They do not fill the page with marriage, houses, and forever promises. Perhaps they once did that privately. Now they understand that future fantasies are easy. Present consistency is harder. So they write, I don't know what our future is. Honest. I only know I wish I had handled our past differently. Then, and if there is still any future available to us, I want to build it slowly enough that neither of us has to guess what is real. Perhaps that is exactly what should happen. Slowly. If you choose. Maybe you begin with friendship. Perhaps simply conversation. You observe. Your soulmate observes too. Maybe both of you discover that love remains but compatibility has changed. That is possible. Perhaps closure becomes the outcome. Also possible. Or perhaps you discover that the distance forced both of you to grow enough that something genuinely new can exist. No guarantee. And that uncertainty is okay. Your soulmate finally seems willing to live in reality rather than forcing certainty. The letter then reaches its final page. Your person has said everything except one thing. The confession they are most afraid to make. Perhaps they stare at the blank space for several minutes. Then write, the truth is, I never wanted you to become a lesson I learned after losing you. That sentence breaks them. Because that is what you have become partly. A lesson about courage. Communication. Presence. The cost of delay. But your soulmate wanted more than a lesson. They wanted you. Maybe they still do. They write, I don't want to spend years telling myself that meeting you changed me while knowing I was too afraid to let you see the person I became because of it. That is the final fear. Growing because of you. Then never getting to show you. Perhaps the final lines say, I love you. I'm sorry I waited so long to say it clearly. I'm sorry I made you search for answers that should have come from me. If your heart has moved on, I will respect that. If you still carry anger, I understand. If you need time, take it. And if somewhere inside you. But again, they know your life does not exist to complete their emotional story. So the letter does not end with a demand. It ends with freedom. There is still enough openness for one honest conversation. I promise I will not hide from it this time. Then perhaps one final sentence. You were never too much for me. I was simply not ready to be enough for the kind of love you were trying to give. Your soulmate stops writing. The room is quiet again. They read the entire letter from beginning to end. Maybe tears fall. Maybe they smile at one memory. Perhaps they feel ashamed. Relieved. Terrified. All at once. For the first time, everything is visible. At least on paper. The question now becomes, will they send it? That is the difference between hidden love and lived love. The letter can remain in a drawer forever. Beautiful. Emotional. Meaningless to your reality. You cannot respond to words you never receive. You cannot build with feelings someone refuses to communicate. Your soulmate knows this. Perhaps that is the final lesson the letter teaches them. Writing it was not enough. They must choose. Maybe they fold it. Place it inside an envelope. Write your name. Then stop. Perhaps they photograph it and prepare to send the images. Maybe it exists digitally. One press. That is all. Your soulmate's fear speaks. What if they ignore it? Then another voice responds, at least they will finally know. What if they reject me? At least I will finally have respected them enough to tell the truth. What if they still love me? Your soulmate's heart races. Then the most important question, what if they still love me, but they need me to prove I can love differently? Your soulmate realizes that may be exactly what they want. Not instant reunion. Opportunity. Perhaps they finally send the letter. Your phone lights up. Maybe the message begins, I wrote something for you. You don't have to respond immediately. You stare at it. Perhaps your hands become cold. You know immediately this is not ordinary. Read slowly. You do not owe the letter the reaction your past self might have given. The old you may have immediately called. The current you may need time. Take it. Perhaps some lines make you cry. Others make you angry. Maybe one makes you whisper, I knew it. Let every emotion exist. You are receiving information, not instructions. After finishing, perhaps you sit quietly. The greatest temptation may be to focus on one line. I love you. But read the entire letter. The apology. The accountability. The willingness to respect your answer. Those parts matter too. Then ask yourself, do I want a conversation? Not, is this person my destiny? Just, do I want to speak? If yes, speak. Perhaps you respond, I read it. Your soulmate sees those 3 words and feels everything. Maybe they immediately start typing. Then stop. They remember the promise. No pressure. They respond, thank you. Perhaps, take whatever time you need. Already, something is different. Then maybe later, you say, we can talk. And the real story begins. Not the imagined one. Not the letter. Reality. Your soulmate hears your voice. Perhaps neither person knows how to begin. You finally say, why didn't you tell me any of this then? There it is. The hardest question. Your soulmate should not answer with a romantic speech. Perhaps simply, I was afraid. Then, and I understand now that being afraid didn't make what I did fair. Good. Maybe you ask, why should I believe things would be different? Your soulmate cannot answer with certainty. I can't prove it in one conversation. Then, I can only show you over time if you allow me the opportunity. That is perhaps the healthiest answer. You decide. Maybe you offer a small opening. Nothing more. Then time begins. Your soulmate either becomes consistent or does not. No spiritual mystery required. Behavior answers. If they are different, you will experience it. If not, you will know sooner because you are no longer willing to ignore patterns. Perhaps this secret letter becomes the first page of something beautiful. Or perhaps it becomes the final page that allows you both to release the old story peacefully. Either way, the truth finally exists between you. And maybe that is why the letter matters. Your soulmate has spent too long loving through silence. They are finally beginning to understand that love does not become meaningful in another person's life simply because it feels powerful inside your own heart. Love must become visible. Through honesty. Through consistency. Through responsibility. Your soulmate may have written a beautiful letter. But the most beautiful thing they can do next is live according to what they wrote. Beloved, perhaps the secret letter has been hidden for days. Maybe weeks. Maybe tonight they read it again. They imagine your eyes moving across every line. Their heart tells them, send it. Fear says, wait. This is the same battle that shaped your entire connection. And perhaps everything depends on which voice they follow now. Not because sending one letter guarantees a reunion. Because courage has to begin somewhere. Your soulmate has already written the truth. Now they have to decide whether they are finally willing to let you know it. And if that letter ever reaches you, remember this: you are allowed to be moved without immediately being convinced. You are allowed to love someone and still require change. You are allowed to forgive without returning. You are allowed to begin again slowly if the behavior supports the words. Your soulmate's hidden letter may reveal everything they have been wanting to tell you. But your response should be guided by what they are prepared to show you after the final sentence. Because perhaps their greatest confession is not, "I never stopped loving you." Perhaps it is this: "I finally understand that if I love you, I cannot keep expecting you to survive on feelings I refuse to make visible." That is the truth they should have told you much sooner. And perhaps now, finally, they are ready to let you read it.